we're going to talk about a pedal that I am actually growing to really enjoy. It is a really popular pedal amongst guitar players, and it is called the Julia by Walrus. Now, the Julia is a combination chorus and vibrato pedal. Chorus and vibrato utilize very many of the same, if not the exact same, mechanisms to work, so that's why they work together. It is a relatively simple pedal to look at. There's only 4 knobs and 1 switch. The way a chorus pedal works is that it takes a second signal. It takes your signal, splits it in 2. The second signal, it will then slightly delay and slightly detune. And then it will oscillate that detuned, delayed pitch, very slightly delayed, based on an LFO, a low frequency oscillator. It will cycle that to give you a kind of robotic, pulsing, electronic sound. It can really serve to fatten up your sound, and it can really serve to give you a little bit more of an 80s electric-y, Blade Runner-y type of vibe. So this is an exceptionally good sounding pedal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through all the knobs and explain some stuff. Now, there is vibrato on this pedal, and I will show you how the vibrato works. But being that this can be our vibrato in a much more controlled and intentional way, I'm going to mostly skip utilizing the vibrato in various contexts because of all of the effects, it's one of the least useful unless you're going for something kind of avant-garde or weird sounding or lo-fi-esque. But it's not a particularly useful effect for most scenarios. So we will spend less time on that. So the knobs that you can see are the rate, which controls the rate of that oscillation, that cycling that I explained before. And this light on the right side of the Julia is actually the light that will blink to show you the speed and the rhythm of the oscillation. Then you have the depth, which is pretty much how extreme you make the detuned modulation of this pedal. And then the lag controls the length of that micro delay that I talked about before. It takes the second that copy of your signal and it delays it a little bit to make the chorus sound, and this controls how much that delay happens. So let's go through all of them. I'm going to bring my delay down, my depth all the way down, and my rate at 12 o'clock so we can get started. I will explain the D/C/V knob in a little bit. All right, so this is the rate at noon, the depth at 9 o'clock, and then the lag all the way down. And here's what you get. The chorus effect there is very subtle. The lag will really kind of bring in some more crunch. Creating more delay in this little effect system here will give you a little bit more bite and crunch. So let me bring the lag to 9 o'clock as well. Now you can more easily hear that oscillation. Now to illustrate how much the lag can affect this, I'm now going to take the lag with the depth at 9 o'clock. I'm going to take the lag and slowly increase it so that you can hear what it actually does. So that serves to make the chorus a little bit more pronounced, a little bit more easy to hear, and a little bit more, up front. Now, when you combine the extremes of the lag with the extremes of the depth knob, then you can really get crazy. I won't get there quite yet, but this can get pretty crazy. So I'm going to leave the lag all the way on, and now I'm going to start to maneuver the depth knob to kind of get us to see where that can have an effect. So here's the depth. Now, it was before at 9 o'clock. Now here's the depth at noon. Now you can really start to hear that stereotypical chorus sound come to the fore. You can hear that oscillation, the wah 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 wah. You can hear the kind of parallelism that you hear with the two signals being slightly delayed, and then the depth is the extremity with which the modulation and the pitch modulation actually happens. So I'm going to go to depth at 3 o'clock now. Getting pretty intense, and now I'm going to max out the depth knob. So now the lag is maxed out, the depth is maxed out, and the rate is at noon. A lot going on there. So now let's dial all this back and explore a little bit more of the depth knob. So I'm going to bring the lag back to noon, a little bit more reasonable, and I'm going to keep the depth at max. Check this out. So you're seeing that the most potent of these three knobs is the depth knob. The depth knob will really get you to the more extreme end of the sounds, but it will have the most potent effect even when you're dealing with subtleties. The lag will be kind of amplified by the depth. So let's bring the depth down to noon. Now all three knobs at the top are at noon. Let's hear what that sounds like. So now this is kind of a sweet spot for me on this pedal. It's super lush. It's very inviting. It's a little steely and electronic and robotic, and I like it a lot. This is also a perfect time to show you what the rate knob does. So I'm going to just slowly amp up the rate knob. I'm going to start at 0, and then I'm going to bring it up to show you what the effect different speeds of oscillation have on this effect. There you go. So here it is at the very max with the depth and the lag at noon. So this has an ability to maybe tie in rhythmically with the music you're playing. So just for shits and giggles, let us take a look at all of the knobs maxed out. Rate, depth, and lag, all maxed out. Pretty intense, not very consistently usable in many settings, but it can bring some cool wackiness to a song that you are playing. Now, let me bring it back to that sweet spot with all three pedals at noon and discuss the other two controls on here. On the left, you will see that there's a switch. And if you can't see it on the pedal, the switch has a smooth squiggly line on top of the label, and on the bottom side it has a jagged squiggly line. Essentially, this controls the shape of the wave that is controlling the oscillation. So what we have been hearing is the topmost setting, which is the sine wave, which is that smooth oscillation. And now I'm going to show you the bottom one, which is a triangle wave, which is jagged oscillation like this, up and down. So first I will play a little bit with the sine wave, and then I will move it to the triangle wave. So check this out. Now the triangle wave. It's got a little bit more of an abrupt oscillation. I'm going to increase some of the settings so you can hear it a little more clearly. This is the sine wave first. And now here is the triangle wave. So a subtle difference, obviously, but a very useful one nonetheless. Now, the last piece to talk about when it comes to the controls of this pedal is that knob on the bottom right, where it says D/C/V. The D is for dry, the C is for chorus, and the V is for vibrato. So before we get into the vibrato, let me talk about the dry. So when you go all the way counterclockwise, the way it is in that image on the screen, then you'll be dry. No effect, and here's what that sounds like. Nothing going on. So now I'm going to increase it to its basic, most common setting for the chorus, which will be at noon. This is an even distribution between the second signal and the first signal that create the overall chorus effect. So here is the dry chorus vibrato knob at noon. And there you go. So now, in an effort to show you what the vibrato really sounds like, I'm going to max out this knob, go all the way to the right, to the V, and that will be the vibrato that this pedal can do. So take a listen to how this can go. So if you find yourself in need of a wavering, kind of shaky sounding type of sound, then the vibrato can get you there. But as you can see, it is just less well suited for a horn player in a more traditional setting, really in any traditional setting, because the vibrato can be done with your mouth. So we're going to kind of stay away from using that in context. I'm going to go back to the basic chorus and talk about a few other things with this pedal. So there's one major limitation, which when it comes to chorus is really not that big of a deal, but it's still something to consider. This does not have a tap tempo, and it does not have an expression input for an external tap. So you have to use the knob to set the speed of the oscillation. Again, with chorus, it doesn't really come into play that much to use the rate so that you're matching up with the song. It can be a cool effect, but in some ways it can also lessen the effect. So just keep that in mind. I want to show you this in context. One of the most common uses of this is kind of 80s solo sounds for saxophone. So I'm going to throw on a little bit of delay. Let's see if the delay sounds good. Not quite. Let's dial this in a little bit. Let's turn the low cut up. Let's turn the mix down. Let's turn down the high cut, and then a little bit more decay. See how this sounds.
2 hours later.
This should be a little better. What a nice sound to play some 80s stuff. So I'm going to try and find some 80s pop type of stuff. Again, written by the incomparable Chase Jackson. Let's see what we can find to show you some of what this can do in context. So that's kind of like the basics of how to really sound good. Just in terms of using a chorus in a context. That's the context, man. I mean, you know, the Baker Street thing. You know, that is like the classic chorus use. Now you can use it in a lot of different ways as well. You can use the chorus to kind of beef up your sound in a horn section. You can use the chorus to kind of add just a little bit of weight to your sound. And it's really useful when playing melodies. So the Julia is just at its core a really nice sounding chorus. If you're looking for a dedicated chorus pedal that's going to give you a nice range of sounds, but really will stay true to its identity as a chorus and give you a really beautiful sound, this is the guy. This is the gal. Her name is Julia. Julia by Walrus Audio. Exceptional chorus pedal. Sounds very lush. Sounds very beautiful. Check it out.